The bustling airport terminal was a scene of chaos as passengers rushed toward their gates, the usual pre-flight tension filling the air. Among them, Dr. Nicole Adams, a well-known black billionaire entrepreneur, stood out, dressed in a refined designer outfit. She moved with quiet confidence, ignoring the curious glances of those around her. Having just concluded a series of business meetings, Nicole was eager to return home. Her first-class seat had been secured for the flight, a privilege she had long earned through her hard work and success. As she approached the gate, an airline employee stopped her. "Ma'am, I'm afraid your seat isn't available," the employee said, casting a nervous glance over her shoulder. Nicole raised an eyebrow in surprise. "What do you mean? My first-class seat is confirmed," she replied, showing the boarding pass. The employee hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "There's been a mix-up. You'll need to sit elsewhere." Feeling her patience slip, Nicole calmly requested to speak with a supervisor. Captain Brian Cole, a tall white man with neatly combed hair and a crisp uniform, arrived. He appeared irritated, his professional look overshadowed by an unmistakable hostility. "What's going on here?" Nicole asked, trying to keep her cool. "You need to move," Captain Cole replied dismissively, barely glancing at her ticket. "Your seat is taken." Nicole held up her boarding pass, determined. "This is my reserved seat. I paid for it." Cole barely acknowledged her attempt, dismissing her concerns. "No, you're mistaken. The seat is taken." Amanda felt her heartbeat race. "I've sat here countless times," she insisted. But Captain Cole wasn't listening. In an increasingly hostile exchange, Cole continued his condescending dismissal. "I don't care who you are, but you're going to leave this seat now, or I'll have you escorted off," he said, raising his voice. Nicole remained calm, standing her ground. "You can't just force me out of my seat. I'm a paying passenger, and I'm not doing anything wrong." Captain Cole's cold demeanor turned to aggression. He shoved Nicole from her seat with enough force to knock her backward. Nicole gasped in shock as she stumbled, her body crashing to the floor. "Security!" Cole shouted as he stormed back toward the cockpit. The surrounding passengers watched in stunned silence. Some whispered, but no one intervened. Nicole struggled to her feet, shaken not just by the physical impact but by the emotional blow of being dismissed so casually. Her shoulder throbbed, and the weight of humiliation was overwhelming. As she steadied herself, two airport security officers arrived. One of them addressed her in a strained tone. "Ma'am, you'll need to exit the plane." Nicole's pulse raced, and the realization hit her. She was being treated unfairly not because of her actions, but because of her skin color. The officers didn't argue but radioed for backup. The whispers from other passengers grew louder, some sympathetic, others judgmental. Nicole couldn't escape the feeling that this was not about a seat. It was about a systemic belief that she didn't belong. As she was led off the plane, the door closed behind her with a heavy thud, leaving her standing on the tarmac alone and vulnerable. But amid the sting of injustice, a fire ignited within her. This wasn't over. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was her father, Charles Adams, the CEO of a massive tech empire and a trailblazer for black entrepreneurs. Nicole hesitated before answering. Her father had a history of protecting his family fiercely, but she didn't want to drag him into this. She finally answered, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "Daddy, something happened," she began. "I need you to hear this." As she recounted the details of the incident, her anger began to transform into a powerful resolve. Her father listened intently, his voice calm yet simmering with anger as he processed the injustice she had experienced. "I'll handle it," Charles said firmly. "Don't worry." The weight of his words settled over Nicole. This wasn't just about her. It was about something bigger. As she hung up the phone, she knew that she was about to take on a much larger fight. Meanwhile, at the airline's headquarters, CEO Mark Green received an urgent call. "Mr. Green, we just received a serious complaint about a passenger, Dr. Nicole Adams." Green's expression shifted. "What happened?" he asked. The staff member relayed the story, and Green's heart sank. Nicole Adams wasn't just any passenger. She was the daughter of Charles Adams, one of the wealthiest and most powerful black men in the country. The news could destroy the airline's reputation. Green immediately began making calls to prepare for the damage control that was about to unfold. In the cockpit, Captain Cole remained oblivious to the storm he had set in motion. He thought he had simply done his job, but when he was called to a private room, he realized just how wrong he had been. He had no idea who Nicole was, but he soon learned that his actions had crossed a line he hadn't anticipated. "Do you know who you just tangled with?" the airline's operations chief asked him, her voice tight with urgency. Nicole's father had already contacted the legal team, and Captain Cole's actions were now a PR nightmare. His career was at risk, and the realization that he had humiliated the daughter of one of the most influential black businessmen in the world hit him like a ton of bricks. Nicole's father, Charles, quickly assembled his legal team. He was furious not just for his daughter's humiliation, but for the broader issue of racism that still permeated powerful spaces. "This is about more than just my daughter," he told his team. "This is about dismantling a system that treats people like Nicole as lesser." In the days following, Nicole filed a lawsuit for racial discrimination and assault. The story broke, sparking outrage on social media and in the press. Hashtags like #JusticeForNicole began trending, and public pressure mounted on the airline. Meanwhile, Captain Cole was suspended, and the airline announced a full investigation into the incident. But Nicole wasn't satisfied with just an apology. She demanded accountability, not only for herself, but for everyone who had ever been treated like she had. As the legal proceedings progressed, Nicole and her father stood united, their resolve unshaken. This wasn't just about one flight. It was about the systemic issues that allowed racism to persist in powerful institutions. Nicole's legal team, led by the sharp and determined Lisa Morgan, prepared to take the case to court. When Nicole took the stand, her testimony was powerful, recounting every detail of the injustice she had faced. "I didn't ask for special treatment," she said, her voice steady. "I only asked for respect." When Captain Cole's defense attorney tried to dismiss the case as a misunderstanding, Nicole's voice cut through the courtroom. "You don't get to erase what happened," she said. "I was singled out because I'm black. I will not let anyone dismiss that truth." The jury deliberated, and the verdict was clear. Captain Cole was found guilty of racial discrimination and assault. He was sentenced to 12 months in prison, and the airline faced a civil lawsuit. The public celebrated the victory, knowing that justice had been served. But for Nicole, the fight wasn't over. She had not only won this battle for herself, but had ignited a movement for change. With her father by her side, she knew that the struggle against systemic racism had only just begun.